Obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong.
This was the state of our union, as they say, and all I heard was conflict. They can try to gloss up their words to make it sound however they want, but the truth is that they all know and expect true problems to come.
I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world, but make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
Last week, we went over the most important part of preparing for the Great Tribulation, which is our faith and trust in Yahuah. If we focus on being His and aligning our lives to His will, we will see that we will be ready for whatever comes our way. In that video, I mentioned the importance of having biblical examples that show us how we should be as we prepare for these times and days ahead. In that last video, I used the example of Lot and his family. But as I made that video, Yah placed another great example on my heart that I felt needed to be emphasized as well. A few years ago, I made a video about this man, but it seems that in this time, the Spirit is leading me to revisit this and give a fresh reminder and give a biblical example of how our mindsets and attitudes should be during these times. You see, for the most part, we all say that we trust Yah and that we put our faith in Him. But as our situations begin to change, challenges can often show who was really declaring their faith in Him from their heart and not just by their mouth. The account of Job is something that we all should place as our example and use everything about Job's experience to counsel and guide us as we continue to prepare our hearts and minds for Yah. So we should discuss it. In the times that we are in today, there is no other more important task than understanding Yahuah. Understanding Him is essential for having a strong relationship with Him. One mistake many of us do is tie the way we would handle things and the way we want to view our own situation, and then we tie these thoughts to how we believe Yahuah should handle things. It's a common mistake that many people make. It takes some reflection, but in that reflection, we can often find that we often project our way of thinking about Yah into how we want Him to be more than how He actually has told us He is and what He cares about. We don't understand and apply, as Isaiah chapter 55 verse 8 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says Yahuah." We try to hold our Creator, the Most High, up to our earthly standards. This is something that we should not do. In our lives, we will be constantly tested. We will face trials, persecution, and challenges. Sometimes we may wonder why we must go through some of these things. There are many times that when people are faced with many challenges, instead of their faith and dependence in Yah growing, these challenges can shake their faith in Yah and remove their trust in their faith. And what we don't recognize is that this is exactly what the devil desires to do. This is one of his tactics, to get us off our tracks and shake up our life so that we start doubting Yah. And as we head closer into these end times and the world begins to reset and reshift, as your life begins to get shaken up, it's important that you hold the right perspective. This is something that I pray for personally. And examples like Job are great references that provide me with a biblical view of how to deal with the challenges life will throw at us. The book of Job is a book in the scriptures that can help us with our trust and having the right mindset through trials and tribulation. I believe this is why Yah provided this account for us. At one time or another, almost everyone has felt like Job. While going through trials and times of suffering, we are often overwhelmed by self-pity. We want an explanation for why Yah allows trials to happen to us. We often let people in with their opinions that do not help us. And if we allow them to, they can completely draw us away from our relationship with Yahuah. The book of Job can help us in this time when we are surrounded with troubles by giving us a glimpse of Yahuah's perspective on our suffering. Just like Job, we must learn to submit to Yahuah and accept by faith that He has a good plan for us. This book is a great teacher of this lesson. Sometimes when reading this book, when reading the dialogue, it can be a little confusing, especially if you don't read it all together. So we are going to break down all of the discussion so that we can get a clear understanding of Job and his friends. Let's begin. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, and one who feared Elohim and shunned evil. And 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. Also his possessions were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and a very large household, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the east. And his sons would go and feast in their houses, each on his appointed day, and would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. So it was, when the days of feasting had run their course, that Job would send and sanctify them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed Elohim in their hearts." Thus Job did regularly. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahuah, and Satan also came among them. And Yahuah said to Satan, "From where do you come?" So Satan answered Yahuah and said, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it." Then Yahuah said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth? A blameless and upright man, one who fears Elohim and shuns evil." So Satan answered Yahuah and said, "Does Job fear Elohim for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now, stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." And Yahuah said, "Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person." So Satan went out from the presence of Yahuah. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabaeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another also came and said, "The fire of Elohim fell from heaven and burnt up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another also came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 bands, raided the camels, and took them away. Yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another also came and said, "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And suddenly a great wind came from across the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are dead. And I alone have escaped to tell you." Then Job arose, took his robe, and shaved his head, and he fell to the ground and worshipped. And he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. Yahuah gave, and Yahuah has taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahuah." In all this, Job did not sin nor charge Elohim with wrong. Job chapter 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahuah, and Satan came also among them to present himself before Yahuah. And Yahuah said to Satan, "From where do you come?" Satan answered Yahuah and said, "From going to and fro on the earth and walking back and forth on it." Then Yahuah said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears Elohim and shuns evil? And still he holds fast to his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without cause." So Satan answered Yahuah and said, "Skin for skin. Yes, all that a man has, he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will surely curse you to your face." And Yahuah said to Satan, "Behold, he is in your hand, but spare his life." So Satan went out from the presence of Yahuah and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. and he took for himself a potsherd with which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of the ashes. Then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse Elohim and die." But he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from Elohim? And shall we not accept adversity?" In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this adversity that had come upon him, each one came from his own place: Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamite. For they had made an appointment together to come and mourn with him, and to comfort him. And when they raised their eyes from afar, and did not recognize him, they lifted their voices and wept. And each one tore his robe, and sprinkled dust on his head toward heaven. So they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his grief was very great. Job chapter 2. The first 2 chapters of this book set up the rest of the book. There's a lot that can be said, but much of it is pretty self-explanatory. Job was abundantly blessed in life, and the accuser Satan, who Revelation chapter 12 tells us is the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our Elohim day and night. He made an accusation that the only reason Job walked upright is because of the blessings he had, and if he didn't have those blessings, he would eventually turn away from Yah. Now I want to say very clearly, make sure that this is not you. I mean, Satan can accuse you all that he wants, but what you must make sure that you do is make sure that this accusation is not true. Do not tie your relationship and love of the Most High only because of the certain blessings you have or you don't have. Love him when you're up, and love him the same when you're down. But Job, he lost everything. Even when he lost his material possessions and his family, he handled it in a way that us as believers must do as well. In chapter 1, verse 21, he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. Yahuah gave, and Yahuah has taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahuah." If you lost all that Job did, would you react this way? Let us all build ourselves up to make the answer of that question a yes. Because in the times ahead, we face losing in the same proportion as Job did, and your mind needs to be right so that you do not curse Yah and remove yourself from him. Trust me, there will be many that do this. Condition your heart so that it is not you. As you can see, even when Job was struck with afflictions and health, he did not curse or turn away from Yah, proving Satan wrong again. But after he lost everything, this is when his so-called friends came to counsel him. In reading this, learn from this dialogue and this example. This is why I spoke last week and said to be mindful of the company that you keep. Just because people come to check on you and seem like they want to help doesn't actually mean that that is what they're actually doing. I mean, even his wife told him, "Curse Elohim and die." Horrible advice. Job's answer to his wife is something that as believers we must condition ourselves with, as well as our spouses and our children. Verse 10 of chapter 2, Job says to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from Elohim? And shall we not accept adversity?" In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. He had the right understanding and perspective. Chapters 3 through 38 is a dialogue between him and his friends. For time's sake, we obviously won't go over the complete chapters, but we will take excerpts and see how each friend was trying to explain the reason for Job's suffering, what their advice was, and what Job then responded with. Let's keep reading. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. And Job spoke and said, "May the day perish on which I was born, and the night in which it was said, a male child is conceived. May that day be darkness. May Elohim above not seek it, nor the light shine above it. May darkness and the shadow of death claim it. May a cloud settle on it. May the blackness of the day terrify it. Why is light given to him who is in misery, and life to the bitter of soul, who long for death? But it does not come, and search for it more than hidden treasures, who rejoice exceedingly, and are glad when they can find the grave. Why is light given to man whose way is hidden, and whom Elohim has hedged in?" So, the first friend that spoke was Eliphaz. Let's hear what he had to say. Eliphaz. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, Remember now, who ever perished being innocent? Or where were the upright ever cut off? Even as I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the blast of Elohim they perish, and by the breath of his anger they are consumed. Behold, happy is the man whom Elohim corrects. Therefore, do not despise the chastening of the Almighty. So that my soul chooses strangling and death rather than my body, I loathe my life. I would not live forever. Let me alone, for my days are but a breath. So Eliphaz spoke first. He was a little more courteous to Job than were his other two friends that you'll see. But his view is still wrong. How he looked at it was that Yah would never punish the righteous and would not preserve the sinner. And in the end, you will see that he concluded that since Job was suffering, Job must have been a sinner. But we know that this was not the reason for the trials that Job was going through. Eliphaz just assumed that Job was living foul and therefore deserved what was happening to him. His dialogue was basically assuming that Job must have done something wrong. Basically, this man Job has been beaten down. He lost everything. He doesn't understand why. And then his friend says, well, you must have done something wrong because Yah doesn't act like this with the righteous. His advice was, don't despise the chastening of Yahuah, and maybe that would be easier for Job if he knew what he did wrong. Job basically got in his feelings and said he hates his life and to leave him alone. But if this guy Eliphaz was really his friend and knew Job, he would believe in and know that Job was a righteous man. But he basically was a closet hater that felt that there had to be something wrong done. His thought of Job was not in accordance with Job's reality. And for all of us, we better know that for many of us trying to walk right, we got people just like that around us. That when bad comes to us, it will make them feel better about themselves. Because they will want to assume that Yah doesn't truly love us, or that we weren't really right with him, as we were trying to show. If you let these people speak to your heart, they can influence you away from Yah. So you need to be mindful and careful of this. Let's go to the next friend, Bildad. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, How long will you speak these things, and the words of your mouth be like a strong wind? Does Elohim subvert judgment? Or does the Almighty pervert justice? If your sons have sinned against him, he has cast them away for their transgression. If you would earnestly seek Elohim and make your supplication to the Almighty, if you are pure and upright, surely now he would awake for you and prosper your rightful dwelling place. I am blameless, yet I do not know myself. I despise my life. It is all one thing. Therefore I say, he destroys the blameless and the wicked. If it is not he, who else could it be? My soul loathes my life. I will give free course to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to Elohim, do not condemn me. Show me why you contend with me. Okay, so Bildad, he comes in more harsher than Eliphaz. He basically argues that Yah could never pervert justice. The only possible conclusion was that Job and his children received what they deserved as sinners. He basically told Job to seek Yah more purely. Ironically, the book started with Yah praising Job for doing just this. But because of his situation, Bildad assumed that there was a problem with Job truly following Yah. He thought that Job and his children were fakers. This was similar to what we saw with Eliphaz, but like I said, his words were a little harsher and Bildad was a little more sarcastic with it. And from this dialogue, we see Job getting more in his feelings because of his friends. In chapter 10, he tries to speak to Yah as an equal, demanding that Yah give him a fair trial. He's getting close to the edge with this kind of talk. Don't ever talk to our Father in this way. Do you see what the wrong friends can push you to do and be like to Yah? Let's keep reading. The next friend, Zophar. Then Zophar, the Naamite, answered and said, If he passes by, imprisons, and gathers the judgment, then who can hinder him? For he knows deceitful men. He sees wickedness also. Will he not then consider it? For an empty-headed man will be wise when a wild donkey's colt is born a man. If you would prepare your heart and stretch out your hands toward him, if iniquity were in your hand and you put it far away, and will not let wickedness dwell in your tents. Behold, my eye has seen all this. My ear has heard and understood it. What you know, I also know. I'm not inferior to you, but I will speak to the Almighty and desire to reason with Elohim. But you forger of lies, you are all worthless physicians. Now Zophar was the rudest of the three so far. His arguments were based on a falsely applied understanding of Yah combined with simplistic reasoning. You will find that Zophar's doctrine was correct, but he applied it wrong. Like he spoke about the impossibility of comprehending the deep things of Yah, and of course this is true, but he pretty much called Job dumb, making a proverb-like statement about an empty-headed man that will be wise. His advice to Job was condescending, and it was to prepare his heart and pray, assuming that Job is suffering because of his iniquity. He really talked down to him. Like in verse 14, he was basically saying, if you just stop sinning and put all that behind you and stop letting sin run loose in your home, implying that maybe Job had acquired his wealth by wrong means or had tolerated evil in his household. Now Job, he basically rejects this incompetent counsel, calling them worthless doctors who have made a wrong diagnosis concerning his disease and suffering. He obviously was correct. For me, these type of friends would have pushed me into even more potential sin, because their disrespect seemed like fighting words, especially the Zophar. They were trying to raise him up in his flesh. And I could see, if I was led in my flesh, I could very easily see some raising up happening. And any way you looked at it, they would be pushing me out of the will of Yah. These friends were not true, and they were there to reduce Job's faith, rather than help him keep it and strengthen it. And that's why we all got to be careful in the company that we keep and those that we allow to give us counsel. We could see from these friends that instead of coming to help, they just assumed the worst of their friend and were speaking wrong about how Father works. And this is very common in our lives. We are going through things, and the people that we confide in expect that what we are going through was because of lack of obedience and sin, when that is not always the case. He works differently within all of us. Eliphaz speaks again. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, should a wise man answer with empty knowledge and fill himself with the east wind? Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or by speeches with which he can do no good? The wicked man writhes with pain all his days, and the number of years is hidden from the oppressor. Your own mouth condemns you, and not I. Yes, your own lips testify against you. I have heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Surely even now my witness is in heaven, and my evidence is on high. You see, Eliphaz now tells Job that basically Job's arguments were destructive and without beneficial substance. They keep saying empty knowledge. I have friends that talk to me like that today. As Eliphaz continues, he is subtly trying to prove that Job is a wicked man. Job belittles them as miserable comforters, saying rather than comforting him in his troubles as a good counselor, they have increased his trouble rather than the opposite. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, will you tear yourself in anger? Shall the earth be forsaken for you? Or shall the rock be removed from its place? The light of the wicked indeed goes out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. How long till you put an end to words? Gain understanding, and afterward we will speak. These 10 times you have reproached me. You are not ashamed that you have wronged me. Have pity on me. Have pity on me, O you my friends, for the hand of Elohim has struck me. Bildad didn't like all that feisty talk Job was giving out. In his eyes, Job was the one suffering, the nerve of him to be coming at them. He basically believed that by the way Job is receiving their sound advice, it's obvious that he is the wicked one. He basically was saying, when are you going to stop all this crazy talk and start listening to us? Gain some real understanding. But Job, he's not trying to hear these guys. He's tired of hearing Bildad's rude questions and the tormenting words of all his friends. He's done with it. Then Zophar the Naamite answered and said, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment? Listen carefully to my speech, and let this be your consolation. Bear with me that I may speak, and after I have spoken, keep mocking. As for me, is my complaint against man? And if it were, why should I not be impatient? Look at me, and be astonished. Put your hand over your mouth. Even when I remember, I am terrified, and trembling takes hold of my flesh. Why do the wicked live and become old? Yes, become mighty in power. In chapter 20, Zophar continues with just sarcasm. He's not even offering advice at this time, just giving sarcastic rebuke. From this point, Job tries to school them, telling them if they try to listen carefully, they can finally be of some comfort to him. With his rhetorical question in chapter 21, he begins poking holes in their retribution doctrine. That doctrine saying that suffering always indicates Yah's punishment of a person. Our Father, the Most High, is controlling everything to accomplish his good purpose. Remember, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love Elohim, to those who are called according to his purpose. That's Romans chapter 8, verse 28. But let's keep reading. Is not your wickedness great, and your iniquity without end? Now acquaint yourself with him, and be at peace. Thereby good will come to you. Receive, please, instruction from his mouth, and lay up his words in your heart. If you return to the Almighty, you will be built up. You will remove iniquity from your tents. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come to his seat. I will present my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. How then can man be righteous before Elohim? Or how can he be pure who is born of a woman? Far be it from me that I should say you are right. Till I die, I will not put away my integrity from me. My righteousness I hold fast, and will not let it go. My heart shall not reproach me as long as I live. So obviously, Eliphaz and Bildad were not hearing him and continued on with their insisting that Job repent. And Bildad continued with his unneeded sarcasm and his condescension. But there was a younger fourth friend that was there that was silent during all this. So these three men ceased answering Job, because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barakal the Buzite, of the family of Ram, was aroused against Job. His wrath was aroused because he justified himself rather than Elohim. Also, against his three friends, his wrath was aroused, because they had found no answer and yet had condemned Job. Now because they were years older than he, Elihu had waited to speak to Job. When Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, his wrath was aroused. So Elihu, the son of Barakal the Buzite, answered and said, I am young in years, and you are very old. Therefore I was afraid, and dare not declare my opinion to you. I said, age should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding. Great men are not always wise, nor do the aged always understand justice. Therefore I say, listen to me. I also will declare my opinion. Indeed, I waited for your words. I listened to your reasonings while you searched out what to say. I paid close attention to you, and surely not one of you convinced Job or answered his words, lest you say, we have found wisdom. Elohim will vanquish him, not man. Elihu was angry about what both Job and his friends had been saying. Because he was younger, he didn't speak at first, but after hearing all that dialogue, he felt compelled to speak out. But please, Job, hear my speech, and listen to all my words. Now I open my mouth. My tongue speaks in my mouth. My words come from my upright heart. My lips utter pure knowledge. The spirit of Elohim has made me, and the breath of the Almighty gives me life. If you can answer me, set your words in order before me. Take your stand. Truly, I am as your spokesman before Elohim. I also have been formed out of clay. Surely no fear of me will terrify you, nor will my hand be heavy on you. Surely you have spoken in my hearing, and I have heard the sound of your words, saying, I am pure, without transgression. I am innocent, and there is no iniquity in me. Yet he finds occasions against me. He counts me as his enemy. He puts my feet in the stocks. He watches all my paths. Look, in this you are not righteous. I will answer you, for Elohim is greater than man. Why do you contend with him? For he does not give an account of any of his words. For Elohim may speak in one way or in another, yet man does not perceive it. Moreover, Elihu answered and said, do you think this is right? Do you say, my righteousness is more than Elohim's? For you say, what advantage will it be to you? What profit shall I have more than if I had sinned? I will answer you, and your companions with you. Look to the heavens and see, and behold the clouds. They are higher than you. If you sin, what do you accomplish against him? Or if your transgressions are multiplied, what do you do to him? If you are righteous, what do you give him? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness affects a man such as you, and your righteousness a son of man. Elihu tells Job how he sees it. He confronts Job and telling him that he is not righteous by attacking Elohim. He cut straight to the heart of the problem here. You see, the problem was that Job had been treating Yah as though he had been his equal. He says, since Elohim is greater than man, why do you contend with him? Job had been treating the Most High like he was merely a human who could be held accountable in some kind of court. Like, this is not fair what's happening to me. You're not right, God. He continued on with implying that Job became proud. When Elihu exaggerates Job's position on the matter, saying, what profit shall I have more than if I had sinned? Basically, what he was saying there was, what benefit do I receive for being good? Though Job never made a bargain to serve Yah for mutual benefit, like the pagan religions of his time did, Job's actions and words may have seemed to reflect that pagan attitude. Yah was not under any obligation to Job for any work or deed. Yah is not a genie. The way that Job was petitioning the Most High to appear to court was highly wrong. Elihu kept speaking. Bear with me a little, and I will show you that there are yet words to speak on Elohim's behalf. Behold, Elohim is mighty, but despises no one. He is mighty in strength of understanding. He does not preserve the life of the wicked, but gives justice to the oppressed. He does not withdraw his eyes from the righteous, but they are on the throne with kings, for he has seated them forever, and they are exalted. Elihu's belief was this: Yahuah is both mighty and just in his dealings with humankind, setting the record straight. Now, after all this, Yahuah comes in chapters 38 through 41, he asks Job more than 70 questions that reveal his power and sovereignty. Then Yahuah answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the breadth of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. Who has put wisdom in the mind, or who has given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can pour out bottles of heaven? Then Job answered Yahuah and said, behold, I am vile. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand over my mouth. Once I have spoken, but I will not answer. Yes, twice, but I will proceed no further. Then Yahuah answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Would you indeed annul my judgment? Would you condemn me that you may be justified? Have you an arm like Elohim? Or can you thunder with a voice like his? Then adorn yourself with majesty and splendor, and array yourself with glory and beauty. Disperse the rage of your wrath. Look on everyone who is proud and humble him. Look at everyone who is proud and bring him low. Tread down the wicked in their place. These chapters really speak of the power of our Creator. And if you read this and just ponder and think on all his ways, he is just truly remarkable and powerful. He reversed Job's accusation that he brought a lawsuit against Job. He showed that it really had been Job accusing him. It wasn't the other way around. Yah reprimanded Job. Who is Job to judge the Most High? And I want you to think about that, because this is exactly what people do. Yah confronts Job with critical errors in his speeches. Understand our Father. He does not play games. So if you ever think to take this approach with him, understand how he views it. Okay, so chapter 42 concludes the whole situation. Then Job answered Yahuah and said, I know that you can do everything, and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. You asked, who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Listen, please, and let me speak. You said, I will question you, and you shall answer me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I abhor myself, and repent in dust and ashes. And so it was, after Yahuah had spoken these words to Job, that Yahuah said to Eliphaz the Temanite, My wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore, take for yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams, go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you. For I will accept him, lest I deal with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite and Bildad the Shuhite and Zophar the Naamite went and did as Yahuah commanded them, for Yahuah had accepted Job. And Yahuah restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, Yahuah gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then all his brothers, all his sisters, and all those who had been his acquaintances before came to him and ate food with him in his house, and they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversity that Yahuah had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and each a ring of gold. Now Yahuah blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camel, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He called the name of the first Jemimah, the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Keren-Happuch. In all the land were found no women so beautiful as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years, and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. So Job died old and full of days. Wow. Job repented of his words and accusations that were based on false belief that Yah always rewards the righteous in this life. He changed his course, and instead of accusing Yah of injustice, he submits to the will of the Most High, El Shaddai. Now look through all that dialogue that happened earlier with his friends. Yah was angry with his friends. Job had been right in maintaining his innocence in the face of his friends' false accusations that whole time. These men did not know the Most High, and were teaching of his ways falsely, and Yah's wrath was against them. Now look at this. They had to later come to the same man that they were once telling was wicked and that he knew nothing. The one they kept telling that he needs to listen to them to be more in God's favor. They had to offer up burnt offering so that Job, the one that they criticized, could actually pray for them. And this will be many that you know. You will see that many that are trying to judge you or claim your faith is not sincere or strong. All those accusations and their convictions that they have, but because they do not truly know Yah, they are wrong in their way of thinking, and they will be judged by it. So in the end, Yahuah restored prosperity back to Job and gave him back twice the livestock he had before, and gave him more children and a long life able to see 4 generations. Clearly, Yah was not admitting he owed Job anything, but he was expressing his wonderfully good mercy. After Job had given up his demand for his former prosperity, Yah could give it to him as a free gift. And this way of thinking is so crucial to how we are today. You cannot demand that Yah gives you what you want, but you must submit to him and let him do as he desires to do in your life. The book of Job, it does not totally reject the principle of divine retribution that says that suffering always indicates God's punishment of a person. It only rejects its false application. It confirms the book of Proverbs that the fear of Yahuah normally leads to an abundant and long life. But we cannot presume that Yah will always operate in this manner like how Job's friends try to assume. In these times coming, many of us will be like Job in regards to our life circumstances. It's not punishment. You were not born during this time because he has something against you. You are born during this time because he has a blessing for you. You must use this book of Job as a lesson that no matter what, you must submit to Yah's will, whether good or bad. He did not have to, but Yah left us his word for assurance in him. He showed John the vision of what happened to all that persevered in the time of great persecution. He sent us his son who died for our sins, who left us so that we can be indwelled with his Holy Spirit, so that we are able to have a personal relationship with him. He is continuously working on our behalf for our benefit, and he does not promise that we'll all be sunny skies ahead, but he promises that if we keep our eye on his son, that we will have the peace to get through it, and our reward will be great. Be blessed and be redeemed. Don't hold our Father to your earthly terms. Do not listen to friends and family who want to present you false attributes to our loving Yah. Continue to rest and trust in him. Surrender to his will and commit your life to what he has in store for you. Always pressing forward, always trusting him, and never taking your eyes off of him and his everlasting love and care for us. If you do this and commit your heart to him, trusting him as he leads you down these unknown roads, you will be ready for him. So stand strong in him and live fully in the faith and trust that our Creator deserves and that he desires. Be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay. Thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please make sure to like it and share it with others. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. Yah willing, I upload every Friday. Please don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. Listen, I really would like to give a special thank you to those who have donated and continue to support this ministry. These times are challenging, but your support really helps and encourages me. I'm humbled by your support, and I'm very thankful for you. You know who you are. Okay. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Be ready for him and be blessed. I love you all.